Precious, a teenager at age 17, lived with her mother. Her parents were separated, and she decided to remain with her mother in their small home where her father abandoned them for a wealthy woman. Her father left them when she was 15. Mr. Nonso, who is her father, left the house because he felt frustrated. His daughter, Precious, had just graduated from junior secondary school and was about to get into senior secondary school. Her father didn't have the funds to help her further her education, and her mother couldn't support as well. She had a broken leg, which was one of the reasons why Mr. Nonso left for Juliet, who was his wealthy mistress, and due to that, Precious couldn't go to school for 2 years. She had to stay at home with her mother, who always needed movement assistance. Precious was sad at the fact that her friends were all in school and was about to graduate, but she was still at home feeling hopeless. And sometimes it depresses her. One day, she was sitting alone outside her house, waiting for some of her friends who usually share their notes with her, when a car parked at her compound. When she saw the car, she got surprised and wondered who it could be. Then a full man alighted from the car and walked to her. "Dad?" she called out and rushed to hug him. She asked him if he had come to live with them. But after hugging her, he told her he had come to pick her up and give her a better life. "What about Mommy?" she asked. "Do you want to abandon her like you did to us?" She asked him, feeling sad, but the father apologized to her once again and promised her that she could always visit her mother whenever she wished to. So she gave it a thought for a while and said to herself, "After all, he is my father." So she said to herself, then she went inside the house to tell her mother about the news, and her mother agreed immediately since she wanted a better life for her only daughter and child. Her mother assured her that she would be fine and that one of her closest neighbors, who was her best friend, would take care of her while Precious was away. Then Precious, who couldn't bear the thoughts of being away from her mother for long, promised her mother that she would always visit, and her mother smiled at her and nodded in agreement. Precious then made plans to carry some of her belongings, but her father told her there was no need. "I will get everything you need over there. Let's go," he said to Precious, and she left with him. That day, when Precious got to her father's house, she loved it and was super excited. She loved the house. It was really big and comfortable, and she felt warmly welcomed. Juliet loved her and took her as hers, and she felt happy. Although sad sometimes, especially when she wishes it's her mother instead. 2 weeks later, Precious enrolled to a new school. The school was big and she loved it. She loved her new friends and teachers. Precious had planned to visit her mother severally, but her father would always stop her, telling her she needs to focus on her education since she had a lot to catch up with, and Juliet agreed. So Precious had to remain in her father's house. After confirming that her mother was doing great from her father, who lied to her that he checks up on her often. So she believed him and thanked him. "Thank you, Dad, you are the best," she would say. A month later, Precious wrote her first test and passed. Her father got proud of her and asked her to name anything she wanted, but her request was that she wants to see her mother. Her father didn't let her until she persisted and began to cry. Then he gave up and drove her to her mother's house to say hello. When they got there, she quickly alighted from the car and ran inside the house to greet her mother. But when she got in, she saw her mother shivering, with one of her legs deteriorating. "Mommy!" she called out. Then she ran out to tell her dad to take her mother to the hospital, which he did immediately. When the doctor told him the cost of the treatment, he said he didn't have all. Then he paid half and asked Precious to go with him immediately. But Precious said she wouldn't leave her mother. Then she asked her father to leave if he wouldn't be staying to support. Her father tried to coax her. He tried to talk to her concerning her education and the benefits she would miss if she doesn't go with him. But Precious stood her ground and remained in the hospital. Then her father left. Her mother's leg was partly treated, and 200,000 naira was needed to complete the treatment. Precious then emptied her account, which was left with 50,000 naira, and paid for the treatment to make the balance 150,000 naira. By evening, she went out of the hospital while her mother was sleeping to look for help. She searched for help, crying, but no one paid attention to her. Some said she was a scammer and chased her away. And after 2 days of searching without results, she decided to apply for a cleaning job, which she did eventually, and was being paid the sum amount of 30,000 naira monthly. Knowing that the money wouldn't be enough even for feeding alone, she decided to starve herself from time to time to meet up her targets. One day, she was cleaning her boss's kitchen while singing, and her boss, who was by the entrance, heard her voice and felt inspired. When she saw him, she got shocked and stopped singing, but he asked her not to. He told her to continue, and he told her that he felt inspired by her voice, which made her smile throughout that day. The next day, while Precious was cleaning her boss's room, she got a call from the doctor, who told her about her mother's leg that needed urgent treatment. And when she tried to plead with the doctor, he quickly passed his message and hung up immediately. Then she fell to the ground and started crying. And her boss, who had been watching her, felt compassion for her. He asked her of the cost, and she told him. Then he transferred 200,000 naira to her account and told her to use the remaining 50,000 naira to take care of herself and her mother. So she quickly ran to the hospital to pay for the treatment. When Precious got there, she quickly balanced up the bills, and after 7 days, her mother was finally discharged, which made Precious full of joy because her mother's leg was completely perfect. The next day, Precious got to her boss's house. She told him the news about her mother's full recovery and thanked him again. She told him that if she'd let her go, she'd be able to pay him after 1 month, since her mother wants to return back to her farm business. Her mother owned a large farm where she harvests cassava and fruits. Then she trades them and also exports to foreigners. Precious tried to convince her boss to let her go so she could gather the money and pay back. but he told her he let her go and that she didn't have to pay him back. And she thanked him over and over again. Your mother needed help, so I helped her. You don't have to pay me back, he concluded. And she thanked him again and left. 5 months later, Precious and her mother were able to sell bountifully. They made progress in their business and were able to afford their needs and few wants. One day, Precious and her mother went out in search of a new house that was better and bigger than the previous one. On their way, they saw Mr. Nonso, who is Precious' father. They saw his car parking somewhere and they avoided him, but he quickly alighted from his car and ran to catch up with them. What do you want from us? Mrs. Nonso quickly asked him angrily. Then Precious told him that if he had come to take her again, she wouldn't go with him, but rather stay with her mother. But he told her he had not come to do such, but that he had come to plead for their forgiveness for ever abandoning them. But they refused to listen to him and walked out. Day after day, Mr. Nonso would drive to their house to plead for forgiveness, but still no response. Until one day, he decided to sleep outside the house throughout the night. The next morning, Mrs. Nonso got up from her bed, and when she went outside the house, she saw him still sleeping and woke him up. Then she offered him and told him to come in and join them inside. And after some long conversations, she forgave him and he felt happy. He told her he was no longer with Juliet and that he was never going back. He told her about the new house he bought and that he needed his family to live with him again. He promised to make a change and to make up for the time he hurt them. And after some time, he left. When Precious got up from bed, her mother told her about the information which she has received from her husband. And it took them 2 weeks to finally decide. And after 1 month, they went back to him. And when they did, he felt happy and promised to be the best husband and father to his home.